if they have success with Drake May on offense, with whoever Vrabel hires as the coordinator, well, then there's some concerns that they would get hired as a head coach elsewhere, which is why Josh McDaniels makes a lot of sense.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday, presented, of course, as always, by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Most of you know that. Classic journeyman, thank goodness, because it enabled me to get these gigs where I was able to call 2 games over the weekend on the sideline in Baltimore, in the booth yesterday in Philadelphia. Sounds like I will be in the booth on Saturday in Kansas City for the Texans and the Chiefs with Kevin Harlan. That should be an absolute blast. Anytime you do a game with Kevin, it's absolutely going to be. It's a new week, which means I'm giving out winners. I already was able to give out a couple more over the weekend. Hopefully I can get to the rest this week. Just spread the word via social media by rating and reviewing the show on any platform, or just engaging with @RossTuckerPod on social media, or me @RossTuckerNFL. Love those of you. Can't tell you how much I love when you send me an email that you took advantage of the code Ross on the Game Time app, or you got a free estimate from westshorehome.com/Ross. Like, that is huge. Just when you do it, make sure you email me, ross@rosstucker.com. And then the YouTube shout-out's fun. It's really pretty easy for me to record a video on my phone and then email it to you, ross@rosstucker.com. After you make a comment, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, what were your overall themes from the wild card round so far?
I'm like getting sad, Jack, that we don't have that many more Mondays where we're talking about themes. I mean, it's coming down to the end. How many games do we even have left now? 4, 6, 7 games. 7 precious, glorious football games. Oh, no, we can still have the national championship for college football as well. Anyway, my themes are presented by Labatt Blue Light. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights like I did this weekend. If you saw my social media, live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. It's delicious beer made by Labatt USA in Buffalo, New York. All right. You know, it's interesting. I don't have that many sort of overarching themes. Maybe it's because there were less games. I mean, it's only 5 games. We got another one tonight. Vikings, Rams. The winner will be in Philadelphia next Sunday. You know, it's funny because I think one of the themes or questions I had, Jack, going into the weekend was whether or not how you finished the regular season mattered, right? And I guess that first game, Texans-Chargers, seemed like that'd be a no, right? The Texans kind of limped to the finish. Although, in fairness, in that Week 18 game against the Titans that I called for CBS, it felt like, you know, that first drive and when the starters were out there for the Texans, they did look sharp. So maybe they were able to get that turnaround. But the Chargers had come in, you know, winning several games in a row, the big game over the Broncos. They blew out, you know, the Patriots, and they beat the Raiders pretty handily. Evidently, it didn't really matter that much. Now, the flip side of that is they actually did get off to a good start in that game, and it felt like they were controlling the action in the first quarter, and then things went very, very poorly for the Chargers after that. But then the next game, Steelers-Ravens, the Steelers were one of 3 teams to ever go into the playoffs having lost 4 straight. The Ravens are one of 3 teams to ever go into the playoffs having won 4 straight by 17 points or more. And that continued, right? I mean, the Ravens just totally destroyed the Steelers in the first half. It was 21-0 at halftime. So that was a game where how the teams finished the regular season absolutely mattered. Denver and Buffalo wasn't really, you know, in that category because neither one of them had a trend going into the postseason. Green Bay and Philadelphia, they did a little bit more because the Packers had lost their last couple games going into the playoffs. And I would say that kind of continued with the Eagles jumping on them right away. Although the Packers, as we'll get to, really did hang pretty good. And then Commanders, Bucks is another one where there wasn't like a very obvious trend going into it. It was also the only one-score game. And that was kind of a bummer. I know everybody compared it to the College Football Playoff Committee, blah, blah, blah. But it was disappointing that more of the games were not competitive. Because you think about it, like the Chargers had the lead and then lost by 20. The Steelers actually made it a game in the second half. That, if they hadn't given up that touchdown at the end of the first half or given up the long run to Derrick Henry in the second half, the Steelers actually could have made it a one-score game. Broncos, they had a lead, and then they lost 31-7. And then, obviously, Commanders-Bucks was by far the most entertaining game. I do have high hopes for tonight. I do think tonight should be competitive, should be entertaining. I guess the last theme, Jack, is that, boy, we really, really remember the last thing we see from quarterbacks and teams, but quarterbacks in particular, especially quarterbacks that are trying to be considered among the elite. Not a good look for Justin Herbert. Now, I don't think Jordan Love was nearly as bad as other people seem to think. I thought Jordan Love played fine. But Justin Herbert, that was not his finest outing. And I said this in that NFL Network game. No one's going to consider Herbert elite until he's able to help that team start winning playoff games. And certainly play better than he did in that game, because that was not good.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, before we get to the games, there are a few notes around the league. First and foremost, the Patriots. They've named former player Mike Vrabel as their next head coach.
And I never know what's going to happen later in the week, Jack, so I'll just make that my Labatt take, which is presented by Labatt Blue Light, the pristine Pilsner. Enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. I think there's pros and cons of the Vrabel hire. The pro is that he's a good coach. He is a proven commodity, good coach, and will not make some of the unforced errors or self-inflicted wounds that Gerard Mayo did. The cons, I would say, are twofold. Number one, it feels like the second year in a row where the Patriots kind of predetermined who they were going to hire. Last year, they didn't even interview anybody else. They just had Mayo as the heir apparent to Belichick. This year, as soon as they fired Mayo, it seemed like everybody knew they were going to hire Vrabel. So I'm a process-oriented guy, and I don't know how I feel about predetermining the outcome 2 years in a row, which is certainly what it felt like, right? And then the second thing is, if they have success with Drake May on offense, with whoever Vrabel hires as the coordinator, well, then there's some concerns that they would get hired as a head coach elsewhere, which is why Josh McDaniels makes a lot of sense, because I don't think anybody's going to hire Josh McDaniels a third time to be a head coach. So that would be the perfect OC hire for Vrabel.
Some more head coaching news. The Cowboys, they're negotiating a new contract with head coach Mike McCarthy.
Well, his contract expires tomorrow. It is uncanny. I wish I loved anything as much as Jerry Jones likes waiting until the last second to do a contract. I think he likes the adrenaline rush. I think he likes the ambiguity. I think he likes having people talk about it. I mean, it's really something else. It really is. And if I'm Mike McCarthy, I drive a hard bargain, because at this point, it sure as heck seems like the Cowboys want to bring him back. Drive a hard bargain, let it expire, maybe go interview with the Bears on Wednesday. Drive your price up on Jerry Jones a little bit. Two can play that game if that's what Jerry Jones wants to do.
And one final coaching note, the Falcons, they fired defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake.
I think it's always interesting when those moves happen later in the week like it did with the Atlanta Falcons and Raheem Morris, right? I guess that was Friday that happened. So on the one hand, maybe that's just the evaluation that Raheem Morris needed to go through before he came to that conclusion. On the other hand, sometimes you wonder if there were other influences in the building to try to say, hey, we should move on from this guy.
And Deshaun Watson, he officially underwent Achilles surgery after re-tearing his in Miami.
And I had a post on social media over the weekend at Ross Tucker NFL that got a lot of attention. This is one we might have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on, Jack, because this is very, very interesting because he obviously tore his Achilles on the field in October, right? So he's going to be out for a while anyway. But if you get injured away from the team facility on your own, most contracts, most guys, they have the right to put you on NFI, non-football injury list, and not pay you. Now, complicating matters here is his Achilles was already torn. So he was already going to be out a while. So I don't know how they would calculate, however many games he misses, what was from the original injury and what was from the re-injury or the re-aggravation. Also, if they said as part of your rehab, we're fine with you rehabbing with a certain guy in Miami, and that's what he was doing, then that's different as well. Now, if he was like dancing or doing something else and this re-injured, then that would be a problem. I would think at a minimum, though, since let's put it this way, I'm quite sure that the Browns have lawyers exploring every angle possible to try to get out of whatever money they can get out of paying Deshaun Watson as a result of this re-injury. I mean, that's just the way the world works. It looks like, Jack, they're going to have a pretty good crowd for tonight's game between the Vikings and the Rams in Arizona. I'm just looking at the Game Time app right now, which gives you the Game Time picks, so it helps you find better value for tickets to not only tonight's game, but concerts, comedy, whatever. But love the all-in pricing. Love the seat views. And it's just a nice feeling knowing you're getting the lowest price guarantee. So if you see a better price elsewhere, you can, get a credit. You can get in for $119. The Game Time pick, pretty nice seat for $189. But these aren't like $10. Like these aren't like just going like easy to get. Like you got to pay real money, but you can get a discount. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Ross for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account, redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Playoff season is here, and the only thing better than game day predictions are the foods that come with them. Introducing Tums Fantasy Foodball Pool, brought to you by Tums, America's #1 antacid brand, and DraftKings. Each week leading up to the big game, turn football into foodball by building your best game day plate for a shot at winning a share of $40,000 in cash prizes. Inspired by game day bites and tailgate treats, join the Tums foodball action during this playoff season's most heartburn-inducing time. Visit DraftKings.com/foodball between January 6th and February 9th to enter for free and select your game day plate before the start of each playoff round. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at DraftKings.com/TumsFoodball. When you feel the heat of the game, don't let heartburn keep you on the sidelines. Try Tums Chewy Bites with a tasty outer shell and soft center for fast relief of heartburn, acid indigestion, and upset stomach. Check out Tums Gummy Bites, featuring a soft and easy-to-chew format for fast relief of occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, sour stomach, and upset stomach. Both available at Amazon, Target, and other major retailers nationwide. And for more heartburn relief fun, be sure to follow Tums at Tums Official on Instagram and TikTok. I've been telling you guys all year that Smirnoff is an official sponsor of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. And you already know, because I've been saying it, that they're an official vodka partner of the NFL and Super Bowl 59. Here's the deal with Smirnoff, right? It's the world's #1 vodka, but it's not crazy expensive like some of these other vodkas. and so many good mixed drinks that you can use with vodka. Right now, they've partnered with Complex, letting fans get their hands on some amazing items handpicked by celebrities. You can get it for $12.99, some of these things, just like a bottle of Smirnoff. That is awesome. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Pricing is at sole discretion of the retailer and may vary by state. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age.
All right, first game up, Justin Herbert. He struggled heavily against the Texans pass rush in a 32-12 Houston blowout.
And that's one of the things that I've been saying about the Texans, and I said this in that Week 18 game against the Titans, Jack. They are elite at edge rusher and at corner. Elite. I mean, you've got Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson off the edge. Danico Autry's a heck of an interior rusher. Then you have Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. as your corners outside. I mean, I don't know anybody has a better combo than that in terms of arguably the two most important defensive positions, although I would submit to you D-tackle. Both offensive lines really struggled in this game, but I thought as the game wore on, it was the Texans' D-line and the Texans' DBs, in particular, Stingley and Lassiter, that totally dominated this game. It was a very sloppy first half. I think I posted at Ross Tucker Pod that it was one of the worst first halves of football I've seen. Neither O-line could block. Neither offense could really move the football. Both quarterbacks had really bad interceptions in the first half. I mean, really bad. And then the second half, Herbert threw that pick six, and that was a killer. I mean, the pick six from Herbert where he overshot his receiver, that was just that was when the game really, really turned. I think it was Eric Murray that returned that. The positive, I guess, for the Chargers is that Ladd McConkey is the real deal and proved that again. That touchdown reception was super impressive. But then listen, the Chargers stay in it when Herbert throws that strike to McConkey, again, as Herbert was getting rocked. Really a bad look, I thought, for the Chargers O-line. I mean, they invest a lot in that thing. First-round picks at left tackle, left guard, right tackle. I mean, they got to play better than that. But then they score a touchdown. How about Cameron Dicker? You know, the field goal gets blocked, and then he tries to just knock it down like he's a quarterback preventing an interception. I got to be honest with you. In the moment, I wasn't like thinking about it. If it's a block kick and it's behind the line of scrimmage, it's a live ball. But like for a split second, I was thinking, oh, that was a heads-up play by Dicker. Because I'm so used to quarterbacks being in that situation. I'm like, oh, that's a heads-up play. Wah, wah. By the way, my daughter does it all the time. Wah, wah. Yeah, that was not a heads-up play. It's so funny because Stroud played really poorly until that shotgun snap went through his hands and he threw the ball to Hutchinson, and that like changed everything. Not only were the Texans elite on the edge and a corner, but Jamari Salyer, the right guard for the Chargers, super struggled as well. Joe Mixon came in the game and helped close it out. They're going to need him for sure against the Chiefs on Saturday.
Baltimore, they took care of the Steelers pretty handily, 28-14.
And I think most people probably expected this, but I'm going to do it, even though, by the way, the owner of the company is a big Steelers fan, so he probably won't like this. 11 Oaks' hungriest performance of the week is Derrick Henry. You guys know I love food. Hopefully you saw my social media videos at Ross Tucker NFL with the tuck spreads from both games. Genuine Wagyu beef, Angus beef, heritage breed pork, free-range chicken, all locally raised, available nationwide. You can shop in person or 11oaksfarms.com. You want the real deal, authentic Pennsylvania Central PA farm, 11oaksfarms.com. Hungriest performance of the week, Derrick Henry and the Ravens offensive line. 300 yards rushing as a team. Derrick Henry had 186. What's even more impressive than that is I think they were at like 250 or 260 with 5 or 6 minutes left in the third quarter, which is why I'll give the Steelers defense the unhungriest performance of the week, the opposite of the hungriest performance. Henry was awesome. Henry's a beast. But the Ravens don't have Zay Flowers, their Pro Bowl receiver, and you still allow Derrick Henry and the Ravens to just run right over your face. Extraordinarily bad look for the Steelers defense. Other thoughts on the game, I would say, Jack, I mean, that's the big thing, right? Everybody's going to talk about the quarterback position for the Steelers. That kind of is what it is. They're in a tough spot. Like everybody always, oh, they need to get, how? You tell me the plan for the Steelers to get a better quarterback, because I'm all ears for how they can do it. And by the way, I thought Russell Wilson played pretty well in the second half of that game. I mean, he made some really good throws in the second half of that game. George Pickens made some plays for them, and I thought they messed up by not giving the ball to George Pickens more in the first half. That was one thing that jumped out to me. I also thought, like, he has like some of the most blatant offensive pass interference penalties I've ever seen. It's actually hilarious. Like, he thinks he can just two-hand push the guy, and like nobody's gonna see it. Like, hey George, there's a lot of people watching, bud. I don't know what's happened to the Pittsburgh defense, but the amount of money that they have in those guys, Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and Patrick Queen and Minka Fitzpatrick, to just get run over and through like that, highly, highly disturbing. And that's what the Ravens are going to have to do, I think, without Zay Flowers. Doesn't sound like he's going to be available for the Bills game. Maybe they'll hopefully, it's a Sunday night game. Maybe he can get back in time, but that's a big factor. They could certainly use him.
Denver, they kept it close early, but Buffalo just ended up running away with it, 31-7.
Right, and these teams that have like the formula for the upset, certainly the Broncos did. I mean, they threw a touchdown pass, a bomb to start the game, and you're like, okay, all right, Broncos. Because for a team like the Broncos, young team, rookie quarterback, no playoff experience, on the road, in Buffalo, your only chance in my mind in those games is if you get off to a fast start, and they did. But it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't. I mean, they converted a fake punt, and it still wasn't enough. That's when you know that, boy, you're not as good as the other team that you're going against. And that much was pretty clear. I thought the missed field goal, the doinked field goal, I don't even know who Lutz, Will Lutz. The doinked field goal by Lutz at the end of the first half, that was killer. I think it was 13-7. The Broncos had moved the ball. You get the field goal there to make it 13-10. You're really feeling pretty good about yourself. You're feeling momentum going into the second half, yet he doinked it and didn't go in. Meanwhile, the Bills, they ran it very effectively, which feels like one of the bigger differences between this year's team and other years is just how well they're able to run the football when they need to. And that might be the difference in the game against the Ravens, like who runs the football the best. But then also Josh Allen. And he's such a big part of them running it. By the way, wait till you see how much Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson run the ball on Sunday. It's winner take all, dude, in a lot of ways. By far the biggest play of the game was Josh Allen, that fourth down throw to Ty Johnson. I mean, when you have a chance to throw a bomb on 4th and long to your third string running back in the back of the end zone, you have to do it. And it worked. I mean, just incredible. By far the play of the game. The other thing that was interesting for the Bills, they were all over Bo Nix. I mean, that's a really good sign for the Bills D-line.
Green Bay was just decimated with injuries in a tough 22-10 loss to the Eagles in Philly.
They really were. I mean, the Eagles ended up winning by 12, but it's not like the Eagles ran them out of the building, and the Eagles got off to almost a perfect start. Oren Burks, hits Keyshawn Nixon. Now, I thought that was interesting on multiple levels. because to me that was clearly forcible contact with the crown of the helmet by Burks. Very dangerous hit by Burks. And so that could have been flagged, but it's not one where they can throw a challenge, where they can throw a flag upon review afterwards. But that's one they could have flagged in the moment, and I would think he's going to get fined for that. And then I know there was some controversy about who recovered the fumble, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of compassion in situations like that. Hold on to the ball. Come out of the pile with the ball. And then that led to Hurts' touchdown pass to Dotson. I have so much respect for Josh Jacobs. He was an absolute beast for the Packers throughout the game. Jordan Love had 3 interceptions, but I didn't think they were that bad. I thought the only one that was really bad was the one to Zach Bond in the middle of the field. You know, the one where he threw it to Dontavian Wicks in the man-to-man coverage against Darius Slay. You got to throw that. I mean, it's man-to-man coverage down the sideline. You got to trust your receiver. It wasn't the best pass by Love, but you'd like to think, number one, that was an incredible play by Slay, but also that your receiver will at least fight for the ball enough that it won't be picked. And then the last one I thought was interference on Zach Bond. That Quinyon Mitchell call, I thought that was interference on Zach Bond. The interception, the second one, though, in the middle of the field was a great job by Bond. Just a terrific job baiting Love into that one. But I thought Jordan Love actually did some good things, both running and throwing, especially when you consider, and you know, at the end of the game, he was without all his receivers, all of them. They were all hurt. It killed him that they lost their left guard, Elton Jenkins. That was a major struggle. The missed field goal by McManus hurt them. You know, Dallas Goedert had one of the most badass touchdowns I've ever seen. The other thing is, like, the Packers' galactically stupid penalties. Keyshawn Nixon, TJ Slayton. How about Malik Heath on 4th down, not getting his feet in? Like, what is going on?
And Washington doinked one in for the win on the road. First playoffs win since 2005, 23-20.
Oh, the drama. The drama, Jack, of since 2005. Their first playoff win since 2005. And it comes down to the end and a doink and in. It hurt the Bucs that they lost their corners to injuries. But really, the difference in the game ended up being 2 huge screw-ups by the Bucs in the fourth quarter. You know, Baker Mayfield, they try to run that jet motion, and he screws up the handoff to McMillan. I don't know what happened there. You know, whether it was the timing was off or it was supposed to be a fake, but just the type of mistake you can't make. Then Graham Barton, 3rd down in the fourth quarter, he snaps it early. You know, and so they lost yardage, had to settle for a tying field goal. Baker played very well. He had a highlight run. Kalijah Kancey was everywhere for the Bucs. But man, Jaden Daniels, ice in his veins all game, especially that last drive. They bring the clock all the way down. The game-winning doink. De'Ami Brown had the game of his life. Love the aggressiveness from Dan Quinn. McLaurin had a big game, and they won, even though Mike Evans dominated Marshawn Lattimore in the first half. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. We are a month away from Valentine's Day, fellas. Engage, lock in, myfrontpagestory.com. Then you also have Sporticulture and Pizza Boy Brewing, backofficeschedule.com, HumanHeadNYC.